Hello and welcome to episode number 20 of the TEW 2020 Challenge Run. Is it 20? Yeah, I think it is, yeah. And anyway, this is the first show after a historic Money in the Bank pay-per-view for Monday Night Raw, as they build the 4-week-long build to their June pay-per-view, which is Vengeance. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into the show.
I won't beg, break, I'm going away. Every moment's one more chance to stand up or get in the
Show starts with Seth Rollins and the Church of Rollins coming out to the ring, obviously with Austin Theory, who is the new Mr. Money in the Bank after he won the briefcase last night. Seth puts over Austin Theory winning the Money in the Bank. He says that with Theory holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, he not only holds the keys to the future of Raw, but the keys to history. Because you see, at 22 years of age, Austin Theory has 1 full year to cash in his briefcase and become the WWE Champion. Meaning that he can be no older than 23 years old when the contract is cashed in. Means that whenever Austin Theory does decide to cash in his briefcase, he will be guaranteed to become the youngest WWE Champion in the history of WWE. However, he says, as he turns to Ruby Riott stood there, he's like, some of us weren't so lucky. Some of us didn't do what I asked them to do. And then Aiken would step up and he'd step between Seth Rollins and Ruby. Seth shouting at Ruby, he'd stand behind or in front of Seth, back to Seth, facing Ruby, staring at her intimidatingly. Seth's like, Ruby, last night it was a simple request. We win both of the Money in the Bank briefcases. No, we didn't do that, did we? And whose fault is that? And Ruby doesn't speak. And Seth snaps. He's like, whose fault is that, Ruby? And then she's like, mine. Seth nods his head and he's like, now Ruby, you know what happens when those in the church who fail my request, they get taught a lesson. Aiken grabs Ruby and Aiken lays her out of a powerbomb. And Seth looks down at her for a few seconds before he offers his hand out to her. And she grabs it and he pulls her to her feet. Seth orders her to place her hand. Obviously, Buddy Murphy brings the Bible in with Seth's face on it. Seth orders her to place her hand on it and then hand over her heart and recite a pledge to the Messiah, which she does. Seth places her hand over her head, sort of like to heal her like he does. But then the lights go out. When they come back on, Aleister Black is sat there. And he looks up at Austin Theory. He looks up at Seth Rollins. The church bails. And then they're on the ramp and Seth tells Aiken, go back in there and finish him. Aiken charges at Aleister Black, but Aleister Black lays him out with a black mass. So Aleister Black appears to have taken an issue with the Church of Rollins after what they did to him last night at Money in the Bank. And that can only end badly for the Messiah and his disciples. And Seth, who was seemingly taught a message to Ruby for not winning and delivering the goods for the church at Money in the Bank. Women's match, Shayna Baszler makes Nia Jax tap out in 5 minutes. Just to get her win on the show. Then she grabs a mic after her match. I think there's going to be a lot of this on this show. She says to Joe, who's sat at the announce table, she ought to smack the shit out of him for allowing a pay-per-view to go by without an appearance from the baddest bitch in WWE history. But she's more than happy to make up for that tonight and pull double duty. She'd then lay the title on the floor and be like, anyone who wants a piece of the champ, make yourself known. And then she's interrupted by Bianca Belair. And Bianca's like, girl, you think you're the baddest bitch on this show? I'm the baddest, EST. The toughest, the roughest, the biggest, the toughest, the fastest, the whatever-est. Shayna tells Bianca, she's like, prove it. Come step to me and I'll choke you out just like I did in NXT. And then Bianca's like, alright girl, you're right. And then she goes to leave before she turns around and she smacks. She gives her the whip with her hair. And then lays her out with the KOD, so she's signalling her intent to challenge Shayna Baszler for the Raw Women's title. Backstage segment with R-Truth and Lana. R-Truth is parading through the hallways when Lana approaches him. You haven't seen Lana in a while, since she broke up with Bobby Lashley. And of course she's looking for support with Truth, and Truth, of course, being the nice man that he is, lets her give him a hug and just tells her everything will be okay. But she knees him in the balls and pins him to win the 24/7 title. So Lana is the 24/7 champion. Rematch from I think last week, Path of the Dragon against the Peak of Physique, with a reverse result this time. The Peak of Physique defeat Path of the Dragon in 8 minutes. Tony Nese cheats to pin Akira Tozawa, and finally Nese and Moss get their first win in the Raw Tag Team division at the expense of Path of the Dragon, who is Tozawa and Humberto Carrillo. MVP Shelton Benjamin promo. They say that after the bump Apollo took at Money in the Bank, he's going to need a few weeks to recover because of that dastardly Jeff Hardy. And as for Lashley, he's not here tonight. MVP has told him not to come to reprimand him for doing something stupid at Money in the Bank. That means that the Open Nation, for now at least, is a 2-man group, so Apollo's not here because he got taken out of the match by Jeff Hardy's dive. And then MVP and Shelton went with him to the hospital. Lashley stayed behind, and then MVP was like, okay, don't do anything stupid. But Bobby Lashley decided to pick a fight with Brock Lesnar. So, which some would argue might be the stupidest thing you can do. So MVP's not happy, and he says Lashley's not here tonight because obviously he was scared that Brock might be here to kick his ass. But for now, the Open Nation is a 2-man group. Speaking of 2-man groups, not quite the same because there is a female here as well. Andrade, Garza, and Vega have an interview. They're all pissed off about Andrade losing his US title last night. But then, so him and Garza are at each other's throat, saying, why weren't you here to help me? And Garza's like, I have my own things to focus on. And Zelina snaps. She's like, focus, focus. It's okay. Tonight, the US champion Kevin Owens has an open challenge for the US title. But even though we're pissed off about Andrade losing, we're not going to answer that challenge. See, you two, Garza and Andrade, have some frustrations with each other that you need to get out. And you'll get them out tonight in the main event. And that will make their group stronger than ever. Once you've had this match and you've sort of settled your differences, we can go back to being one. And once again, we will be dominating Monday Night Raw. So, a lot of takeaways here. Owens is doing a US Open challenge. And Vega wants her boys to be on the right track and feels the only way to do that is to have them beat the shit out of each other in the main event. And then everything will be... all their differences will be settled in the ring. In an 8, Sugar Rush defeat the team of Brandy, Lauren, and Jessica Meyer. But see, the individual rings aren't that bad, but it's just because they didn't care about anyone in the match. But people they do care about, however, are the Women's Tag Team Champions. Sugar Rush grabbed microphones again after the match. They say they know they're young and have a lot of things to learn here on Raw, but you miss any shots you don't take. So, Kabuki Warriors, what do you say that a Vengeance, you give 2 spunky British girls their pay-per-view debut and a women's tag team title shot? Asuka and Kairi would come out on stage with their belts and they'd just laugh at the idea of defacing these two for the women's tag team titles. And they say, you've not earned the chance to face us at Vengeance. Which, bit of a stinger, because it might be true. Cedric and Ricochet chatting in the back when they are approached by MVP and Shelton Benjamin. MVP says that Cedric and Ricochet aren't really going anywhere on Raw right now. They're just sort of floating in the tag division, and well, VIP Nation, there are a few men down. And Ricochet's like, thanks, but no fakes, bro. And MVP's like, do you know what you're doing? You're turning down a spot to be in the most elusive group in WWE history. You are turning down the chance to be a VIP here on Raw. And if you know what happens to people that turn VIP Nation down, I teach them a lesson in that ring. So you two meet me and Shelton out there later on tonight, and we'll settle this. Speaking of tag team action, hot tag team action, Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers are on Raw. They defeat 3 job guys, Sonny Stevens, Kevin Novak, and Lawrence Fulver. Not really anything else to take away from that, apart from after the match. Jinder grabs a mic again, someone grabbing a mic after a match. He says that was pathetic. He tells Joe, obviously who sat at the announce table, he's beginning to lose faith in him. Joe shrugged. He's like, well, you two came up to me begging for matches this whole time. I finally gave you a match. What more do you want? And Jinder's like, oh, me and the Singhs, we aren't leaving this ring until we get real competition. And the Singhs would roll out the rug behind Jinder, and they will take a seat on their little Indian rug as we go to a commercial break. And we come back, Jinder and the Singhs, they're still sat there and they're still ranting about how they want a real match and they want real competition here on Monday Night Raw. Then we hear the sound of someone's headset at the announce desk getting thrown down. And we see Joe casually walking to the ring, rolling his sleeves up. And he just gets into the ring and he beats the fuck out of Joe and the Singh brothers. And then picks up their stupid rug. He tosses that to the outside and he's like, now back to your regularly scheduled show. And he throws the mic down and sits back down at the desk, taking care of this pesky nuisance that is Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers. Did I click? Apparently not. That regularly scheduled show is Kevin Owens coming out for a United States Open Challenge. He says he'll be a fighting United States champion, and in the spirit of his debut against John Cena, where he answered an open challenge for the US title, he's issuing one here tonight. Anyone in the back is answered by Rey Mysterio, and he says that he respects Owens, and it's nice to see someone he respects on this show full of crazy messiahs and people of that ilk, and he would love the chance to compete for the US title right now, which of course Kevin Owens accepts. And their match gets a 71. Kevin Owens defeats Rey Mysterio with a pop-up powerbomb to make defense number 1 of the US title. This advanced the VIP Nation storyline. It should have been the US title story. I don't know why it did the VIP Nation story. Apparently I said it too. That is bizarre. Maybe it was just a mistake, I don't know. Speaking of storylines, the Street Profits promo. They say they respect the Viking Raiders and after their match last week, and they'll be willing to face them again anytime, because them two teams are quickly putting tag team wrestling here on Raw on the map. And now the Raw tag team titles are quickly becoming the hottest title in wrestling. But it is indeed time for other teams to step up and see who wants to catch the smoke. So, good way to sort of just build the titles. If you have matches every week between tag teams and try and make it all about the titles, they will eventually try and get meaning back to them, which they've lost in real life. And I am looking to obviously make the tag team titles quite important. I would like to at some point be able to have the tag teams main event shows, but obviously we're still a long ways off from that. So it's a slow process, because they're currently getting 44s, see. But in this match, Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne of Aussie Might defeat the Viking Raiders. Shane Thorne pins Ivar after an interference from Big Bronson Reed. 51 for both Vikings, 37 for Shane Thorne, and Brendan Vink gets a 31. Lana is striding through the hallways. She's like, she runs up with R-Truth. R-Truth tries to roll her up, but she turns around. She's like, that's right, you can't hit me. I'm the 24/7 champion. I'm a woman. You can't beat up a woman. Get up to Titus. She's like, oh, I know, you'll be a star. What would the children think, Titus, if you laid your hands on a woman to win a title? That's right, you're not going to do anything. She's just being super, super obnoxious. Being such a fucking dickhead and just shouting in her stupid, annoying voice about how no man is going to attack her and pin her to win the title because she's a woman. But then from our screen, we hear the distant shouting of, I don't care who has the title, I'm going to win it, throw him up. And then out of nowhere, from off screen, Oney Lorcan charges in, sprints in, lays Lana out of a big uppercut, knocks her out, pins her to win the 24/7 title, and Oney Lorcan runs off with the belt under his shoulder, finger up in the air, throw him up for the 3-time 24/7 champion Oney Lorcan, who has just laid out Lana here tonight, which would definitely get him over as a babyface. I know uppercutting a woman wouldn't normally get you over as a babyface, but when this is the woman in question, yeah. 61 for Cedric and Ricochet beating MVP and Shelton Benjamin. Ricochet pins MVP. Ricochet gets a 64, 49 for Cedric, 50 for Shelton, 49 for MVP. Interesting. MVP said they were going to regret turning down VIP Nation, but who's looking like the losers here? Aleister Black. He takes a seat in his spooky room, and he speaks to the camera. He looks straight to the camera. He's talking to Seth Rollins. He says he's not a prophet, and Aleister doesn't care about him or his little cult. He cares about what he did at Money in the Bank to Aleister Black personally. Aleister had that match won until Seth got involved and stomped him to allow his boy Austin Theory to win. Aleister isn't some beacon of light. He lies beyond good and evil, but for the injustices that Rollins has caused him personally, the entire church must be vanquished. So Aleister Black made his message very clear. Main event gets, oh shit, okay. Didn't expect this to do that this good. Andrade defeats Angel Garza in 16:44 with the Brillante driver. Match goes to 76. They've got great chemistry, which of course they do. Can imagine this being a banger. They both have great chemistry with Zelina. And yeah, great main event. But the show's not over, folks. Andrade helps Angel Garza to his feet. The two shake hands. And Zelina holds both men's arms in the air because they've finally had a match with each other and they've settled their differences because they shook hands and they're all a big happy group once again. Then the music of the WWE Champion hits. And Drew McIntyre walks to the ring. Haven't seen him all show after his win over Brock Lesnar at Money in the Bank. He comes in, he says, I haven't got to talk to you, Zelina Vega, or to Angel Garza. He talks directly to Andrade. He says he respects Andrade. He's had his eye on Andrade for a while. And he also respects Garza. But there's been something that's been annoying him for almost 3 years now at this point. Andrade was the man who beat him for the NXT title. And Drew never got a rematch. Drew never got another match with Andrade. And this was 3 years ago. But here Drew stands as a champion almost 3 years after that fact. And quite frankly, Andrade's debt is due. He's not going to sit around waiting. He's a fighting champion. And if Andrade's too scared to get his title back from Kevin Owens, maybe he won't be too scared to accept Drew McIntyre's challenge one-on-one for the WWE Championship at Vengeance. Andrade laughs and leaves when Drew is jumped by Angel Garza. He lays him out, and then obviously the title's on the floor. Garza picks the title up and he hands the title to Andrade. He holds it up in the air, doing the tranquilo fist with Zelina Vega with the title in his hand as the show goes off the air. Yes, they did do this sort of angle in real life where he fought him about the thing in NXT, but you could really get a pay-per-view match out of it. They blew it away randomly as a Raw main event and then just moved on. Like, it's such a good crutch of a actual story. And, oh well, anyway, the show gets a 76. No popularity change, which is better than losing pop. But what is more important than is what you thought of the show. And do let me know in the comments what you thought. And until next time, I'll see you for SmackDown. See you then.